This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe on this date. And on this day, June the 15th, in the year 2004, one of the greatest NBA Finals upsets of all time happened. Now, some people would say it doesn't really make it an upset, but considering the team that lost and how freaking stacked they were, you know it was true. So it was the time that the Detroit Pistons were the NBA champs in 2004. They would face the LA Lakers, who were a dominant team. The Lakers had Kobe and Shaq together. They were considered the massive heavy favorites and all that. However, the Pistons in Game 5 won the series in 5 games. A lot of people called it a 5 game sweep because the Pistons were dominating in each win, and the Lakers just got lucky to win Game 2 in overtime. This was the 5th time that the Pistons franchise would get the title, although they counted the 2 NBL titles, which was a precursor to the NBA. So this would be the 3rd time that the Pistons franchise would win under NBA rules. The Pistons went back-to-back in 1989 and 1990 with Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, the Bad Boys, and all that. Of course, this is the last time the Pistons have won a title, and William Davidson, who owned the Pistons, actually became the first owner in American sports history to win 2 championships in 1 calendar year, because 8 days earlier, his other charge, the Tampa Bay Lightning, won the Stanley Cup over Calgary, of course, pissing me off in the process. The Lakers were huge. This was the 2000s. In the early 2000s, they were dominant. They won the 2000 title for the first title in a while. 2001, they only suffered 1 loss, and that was to the Sixers in Game 1 of overtime in the finals. On the way to the title in 2002, they were just as good against the Nets. They fell in the conference semis to San Antonio in 2003 and saw the Spurs win the championship. So anyway, the Lakers made some big changes. They wanted to put up a point guard and a power forward so that they could match the Spurs value for Tim Duncan. They decided to sign Gary Payton and Karl Malone for well below market value, giving them a chance to win a championship ring. So that's what happened. Gary Payton left Seattle, and Karl Malone left Utah. Yeah, Karl Malone should never have played for another team other than the Jazz, and Payton for the Sonics. The Lakers started out fast, 18-3, but they had injuries. But they got 56 wins and 7th seed in the West. They easily beat Houston. They actually were down 0-2 to the Spurs, but somehow won 4 straight. Then they faced Minnesota in the conference finals, which was the last time the Timberwolves had been to the conference finals until this year, 2024. And the Lakers won in 6. The Pistons went back-to-back. They faded from relevance, although Grant Hill was a decent player for them back then. Joe Dumars was made GM, and he made sure to get draft picks and making trained players. He traded established stars to pick up what seemingly were nobodies, and Ben Wallace and Richard Hamilton. Ben Wallace was fake because he was undrafted, and people didn't want him. And Rip Hamilton was not wanted. I think Washington was the team that wanted him. Chauncey Billups was considered an underachiever and passed by team after team by team, kind of like a used tissue. And Billups played for the Nuggets, Celtics, and the Raptors for a while. And Tayshaun Prince was drafted 23rd in 2002, which people thought was a bad move. However, he was named NBA Executive of the Year in 2003. They would make another massive coaching change, firing Rick Carlisle, who had basically helped the Pistons out in the 2000s, and picked up Larry Brown, who was the coach of the Sixers in 2001 against the Lakers, and of course taking care of the Raptors in the second round, pissing me off. Dumars made a massive 3-team trade with Boston and Atlanta. He traded Chucky Atkins, Lindsey Hunter, Bobby Sura, Sergio Rebraca, and other considerations for Mike James and forward Rasheed Wallace, who was traded from Portland to Atlanta and then Atlanta to Detroit. So they basically sold the farm in a sense for Rasheed Wallace. who was troublesome and picked up a lot of technical fouls. The Celtics had Lindsey Hunter, but they waived him, and Hunter went back to Detroit. He would be partnered with Mike James as a good guard tandem off the bench. The Pistons won 54 games and third in the East. They took care of Milwaukee. But in the second round, they took on the Nets, who were the defending conference champs. The Nets were up 3-2 with a chance to win Game 6 back home. But somehow the Pistons, down by 12 early, stormed back to win the game to force a Game 7 on home turf and won 90-69. They would take on the powerful Indiana Pacers, who ironically were led by Rick Carlisle after Detroit dumped them off. It was a hard-fought series. It ended up being a 6-game series, and the Pistons, for the first time in 14 years, were going to the finals. People picked Minnesota over Indiana, then thinking that the Pacers would finally win an NBA title. Not so fast. So yeah, the Lakers and Pistons met twice in the regular season, and both teams won on home turf. The 2004 Pistons were lined up this way: Chauncey Billups, Eldon Campbell, former Hawk. No, sorry, Hornet. Tremaine Fulks, Darvin Ham, the guy who had that backboard breaking slam at the NCAA tournament in '96 as a member of Texas Tech against North Carolina. Rip Hamilton, Lindsey Hunter, Mike James, Darko Milicic, who a lot of people said was a bust. He was the number 2 pick in 2003. You know, the draft that had LeBron, Carmelo, Bosh, and Wade. Mehmet Okur playing for Detroit, star of Turkey. Tayshaun Prince, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, and Corliss Williamson. Suey! The 2004 Lakers had Kobe, Brian Cook, Derek Fisher, Rick Fox, Canadian, Devin George, Horace Grant. Horace Grant playing for the Lakers. Can't believe it. Karl Malone. Yeah, he should never have been a Laker. Slava Medvedenko, Shaq, Gary Payton, Kareem Rush. Ooh. Byron Russell, former Jazz player himself, Jamal Sampson, and Luke Walton, whose father was Bill Walton, and of course, recently deceased. So anyway, the finals were a 2-3-2 format, meaning that the Lakers would host games 1, 2, 6, and 7. The middle 3 would be in Detroit. So anyway, this was a huge rotation and all that. So it was a huge series. Now the Pistons became the 4th team ever to sweep the middle 3 games since the 2-3-2 format. The 2-3-2 format was between 1985 and 2014 when the NBA decided to go back to 2-2-1-1-1. The 90 Pistons, 91 Bulls, and 2001 Lakers would also do the sweeping of the middle games in the series, other than the Pistons. Miami in 2006 and 2012 would do the same thing. A lot of people said it was David versus Goliath because the Lakers had all-stars like Karl Malone, Gary Payton, Kobe, and Shaq. And Detroit had a defensive-based game plan. So anyway, game 1 in LA, Detroit stifled the Lakers, winning 87-75. Shaq had 34 points, which was good. Chauncey Billups led the Pistons with 22 points. However, the defense did stifle everyone else. All that. In game 2, it was overtime heroics by the Lakers, who pasted the Pistons in overtime 10-2. Anyway, Kobe did hit a 3-pointer with 2 seconds left to force overtime. And did all that. In game 3 back in Detroit, the Pistons dominated. Shaq led the Lakers with 14 points. Unbelievable. The Pistons put up a 20-point win to take a 2-1 series lead. The Lakers only scored 68 points. Those 68 points became the lowest scoring postseason game in Lakers history. Tayshaun Prince held Kobe to 11 points on only 30% shooting. Rip Hamilton led the Pistons with 31 points. Anyway, the Pistons in Game 4 did their job 88-80. Shaq put up 36 points and 20 rebounds. Kobe scored 20 points, but, they watered down everyone else. Karl Malone injured his knee and would not play in Game 5, which is, of course, June 15th, as I said. The Pistons win 187. They did it. Larry Brown finally got his first win as head coach. The Pistons defense stifled the Lakers' offense, winning the game by 13. Kobe had 24 to lead the team. Rip Hamilton only had 21 points to lead the Pistons, but Ben Wallace put up 22 rebounds. The Pistons, with their 100 points, was the only time that in the finals a team got to triple digits. Phil Jackson would leave the Lakers coming back in 2006, but anyway, it was amazing. Karl Malone was upset, and unfortunately, Karl Malone would retire after the 2004 season, so that was his best chance to win the title, but he failed miserably. Anyway, Al Michaels and Doc Rivers were the guys who called the games for ABC. It was actually shocking that Al Michaels would be the head of ABC broadcasting. But anyway, Doc Rivers would depart the booth to become coach of the Celtics. So Hubie Brown became the color commentator. Anyway. Well, it was just amazing and all of that. The Black Peas song, Let's Get It Started, was the thing for the 2004 NBA playoffs. Unfortunately, though, that song actually has a much darker original title, which I can't repeat for obvious reasons. Regardless of that, the Pistons actually did decent after the 2004 season. The 05 season, they put up 54 points, 54 wins, being the second seed in the Eastern Conference. And Detroit and Indy would fight it out, literally, in November 2004 when they had a brawl, the Malice at the Palace. And yes, Ron Artest was going to be calm when he laid down on the scoring table, but the fans threw something and pissed him off. Regardless of that, Detroit kind of got Indy and their players into deep trouble. Anyway, the Pistons went to the NBA Finals, losing in a hard-fought 7-game series to the Spurs. The Spurs were buoyed by Robert Horry's game-winning shot in Game 5. The Pistons would still be good in the Eastern Conference. Unfortunately, the next 3 years, they would lose the conference finals each time. By the time they lost to the Celtics in the 08 conference finals, management decided to break up the core of the team and try to fix the problem. But the Pistons went into a long period of stupidity. And, of course, it's happening this time. Unfortunately, the Lakers really suffered for losing the 2004 NBA Finals. Phil Jackson resigned without anyone blaming him for anything. Shaq was traded to Miami because Shaq and Kobe could not get along with each other. That actually bit the Lakers in the butt because in 2006, he won the title with the Heat. Gary Payton was dealt to Boston, and Karl Malone was unsigned, but then he decided to retire. The Lakers would only win 34 games in the 05 season and miss the playoffs. 34. That's amazing. Phil Jackson actually returned to the Lakers in the following offseason. He actually called Kobe Bryant uncoachable. But regardless of that, they did bury the hatchet. And with Jackson being the coach, Bryant being the head guy, the Lakers would actually win 2 out of 3 NBA Finals in the late 2000s. So it did work out for the Lakers after all. And the Pistons, Mr. David, took care of the Lakers, who were Mr. Goliath. It just happens this time, and it really happened. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do